Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to Riding on Ruby. Well, this is going to be my 2-year review on the ownership of my 2019 Street XG500. So, just a little background, I ended up buying this as a 2019 leftover. I bought it in September, like 29th, I believe it was September 29th, 2020. Apparently nobody wanted to pay the extra money for that paint scheme. And according to the dealer, this Wicked Red Deluxe is a very rare or limited paint scheme, at least on that year or model, whatever. So to me that makes it a little bit special, and also the fact that you can't buy these new anymore. So to me that's a nice, win-win situation. All right, so here's the deal. I'll put in the description the video of exactly why I ended up buying the 500 when I actually wanted to start off with a 1200 after my 30-year hiatus from writing. So I'll put that description in the description rather, and I'll also put a video about changing the battery in these things because it was horrendous. And also, in case you're wondering how did Ruby get into the house, I didn't record it this year, but I did record it last year. So I'll put the link to that video in the description as well, so you could see exactly how we got her in the house from start to finish. And I want to give a good shout out to Al and Jim for helping me getting Ruby in the house this year. You guys are awesome. Alright, so here's the deal. She's got the 500 Revolution motor. This is like the first gen Revolution. So now you already know about the RevMax motor. You know, I think there's the two 1250s that are in the Pan America, and that gets like 150 horse. The Sportster S has the RevMax and gets, I believe that's 121 horse. And then the new Nightster, which I predicted like 6 months before they came out, and that also has the RevMax, and I think that's up there like 85 or something like that horsepower. Don't quote me on that. So anyways, this is the first gen, and I'll tell you, this bike is powerful throughout the entire range. You don't have to wait until you hit that certain power band and go. So anyways, here's the way I feel. I'm out riding when I'm out riding, I should say. I feel the wind, I feel the freedom, I hear the awesome muffler, and I tell you, there's no better feeling than that, and I totally love that feeling, and this bike provides all of that. I've ridden with baggers, dressers, on, nice little, rides and stuff that we went on. Never had any issues keeping up with them. I've only gotten her up to about 70 miles an hour because, around here it's just mainly, main streets and back roads, so you don't really have much time. I really hate highways, even in my car, so I don't go on the highway. Who wants to go on a highway when you could take some nice, cool back road with some nice twisties and some hills and lows or whatever? So anyways, she's got the 3.5 gallon gas tank. I get her close to 60. I haven't really figured it out exact, but it's close to 60 miles a gallon. The insurance is cheaper because it's only 500 cc's. The higher the cc's, the more your insurance is going to, because it's a bigger risk. And I tell you, I mean, she's a 514 pounds running weight, wet weight, whatever you want to call it. And all the street versions, the 500, the 750, the 750 street rod, were supposedly all made for city driving. So like New York or Los Angeles or whatever, wherever it's busy. So you're going to be going a little bit and you got to stop and you got to wait, you got a traffic backed up, traffic jams. So that's why she's liquid cooled. Never had an issue with overheating in the 2 years. Alright, but I did have 2 issues and I'll get to that. Alright, but then she also has awesome suspension because it was made for the city to go over potholes or whatnot, and then like say you get in a traffic jam, you know what? Just jump the curb, go down the sidewalk, go around it, boom, you're on your way. Well, that's basically what she was made for. And she has adjustable rear shocks, which when I got her, she was like, I said on the lowest one. I put her on the highest one, so this way when I'm riding two up, it's a little bit more supportive. But I love the suspension. It's a smooth ride. It has the softer clutch, which being 62 for me, that's a little bit easier on my hands. And it's just an awesome bike. It looks good. It sounds good. I picked her up. I think she listed for 7,500, and like I said, my intention was to buy the 500 and then maybe trade up to like a 1,200 or whatever, but because half the people, 50% of the people are like, hey, if you're out, you're riding, you're enjoying it, you're having a good time, that's all that matters. Then you get the other 50% that are like, oh no, you should have a bag or you should have a bigger bike, blah blah blah. Well, give me the $25,000 and I'll go buy a new bagger. This was $7,500, and the following year when they're doing that nada, the dealer calls me up and says, hey, I'll give you $7,000. Not even looking at it. He's just like, look, I'll give you $7,000. Come up. We'll get you into something a little bit bigger. But by then, I'm like, hell no. Because I absolutely love this bike. It's easy to move around, in and out of the shed, in and out of the house. Gets good gas mileage. Insurance is cheap. And the ride is awesome. I mean, I absolutely love this bike, and I'd recommend it to anybody that's not afraid to have a smaller bike. That's the whole thing. Oh, I got to get a bigger bike. Oh, sure, I would love to go get that nice red color version of the Street Bob with the 114, but I can't afford $15,000. And that was the whole thing right from the beginning. I had $5,500 cash. I wanted to buy a 1200 or maybe an 883, but more of a 1200 Sporty, and start off with that. But to find something for that $5,500 without doing some kind of a loan, you were talking like a 13, 14-year-old bike. And then when we went around, me and my buddy Henry went around looking at some of these 1200s, I saw the 750 Street, and this thing was 5 years old, and it was the same price as the 13-year-old 1200s. So then I start thinking, I don't have a big budget or anything like that. So hey, you know what? This looks like it's a better deal. It's newer. It only had like, I don't know, it was under 3,000 miles, but we went to take it for a test ride. The battery was dead. And the guy's like, come back like in 3 hours, and this is like 4 or 5 towns away. I'm like, forget it. So we ended up calling up another dealer. So I'll give a shout out to Old School Harley Davidson in Ellington, the former TSI Harley. You go talk to Sean over there. He's going to hook you up, and he's going to put you on something that you could afford and something you're going to like. And no bike is too small or too big for them. So go check them out. And I'm not affiliated with them. Just so you know, that's just my honest opinion. They're awesome. So, I mean, now I had a couple issues with Ruby. One issue was that I'd be out riding, and I'd stop and I'd get off and I'd look and I see some liquid down around the top of the primary, maybe some over here on the right side, and and it looked red, and I'm freaking out like, oh my God, what is this? And me and my buddies, we looked all over. We couldn't find any sign of it dripping anywhere or anything like that. All right, so I just figured, well, maybe it's just I splashed something up off the road or whatever, you know. But, being liquid cooled, you start thinking about, oh, radiator leak or, something like that. All right, so it was fine for like another week, and then all of a sudden I noticed a little bit more of it. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to call the dealer. I got a 2-year warranty with her, so that was another plus. So I called the dealer. They came, they picked her up. I didn't want to try driving it there in case there was something major, like a hose was going to blow or something. So they came, picked her up, they checked it out, took her out, and called me and say, hey, we didn't find nothing wrong with it. And I'm like, all right, well, I says, well, look, it didn't happen every time. Could you like schedule it in and do like another test ride? Or like that, they didn't want to, but they ended up doing it anyways. So a couple days later, they ended up doing that, still no leaks. So since she was already up there, and I think at that time I had around 670 miles on the clock, and they had some deal where they do that $500 1,000 mile service package, and you get $200 off. So I'm like, hey, since she's there, could you do that? So I had the 1,000 mile service package done. So they delivered her back, because I just didn't feel like going all the ways up there to get her. And, not knowing that, if there's still going to be an issue. So somewhere down the road, I was, I don't know, doing something, and I was reaching underneath there, underneath the frame, and I found there's like a hose there. There's two hoses actually. I think one of them's the fuel dump to release the pressure, and then the other one apparently was the overflow for the coolant reservoir, and it was like jammed right up against the frame where it's kind of flat. So my theory was that maybe it started to like get rid of some of the overflow, but instead of leaking out where it's supposed to go, it was squirting out and hitting the frame and then just squirting and splashing everywhere. But I have never ever had that issue, and it was probably like a year and a half now that I've been riding, and I've never had that issue again. The second issue I had was the battery, which is normal. You got to remember she was a 2019 leftover, and they don't keep them plugged in all the time, so she sat for basically a year. And then I got her, and like I said, I got her, they actually delivered her like the first week in October. So basically I only rode her about 7 or maybe 10 times throughout the month of October, because on October 31st, Halloween here in the United States, I ended up getting Ruby in the house because I figured it's going to be cold. But up until then, we had some cold, chilly nights and all that. And that's around the time she came back from the dealer. And I noticed that the battery seemed kind of low. It wasn't firing up right away. And then I tried starting her a few times, and then all of a sudden I get this engine light on the speedometer, on the gauge. So thank you to OH Street Guide for hooking me up with the video on how you get the code. So I ended up getting the code, and that's one of my videos too, if you want to go to my channel and look it up, how to get the error codes. I believe that was actually a short. And, to get the codes and then, Google it, find out what it is. And it turned out it was the battery. So I did a video on changing the battery, but on these Street 500s, the battery's not right under the seat over here. It's not sticking out the side like on some other bikes. It's buried way under the seat, behind the motor. You got to take off this cover here. You got to disconnect the main fuse. You got to disconnect the main fuse panel. You got to pull that out, disconnect vacuum lines or get them out of the way. Then you finally get to the battery, and then you got to disconnect the positive. You got to go on the other side of the bike. It's just, like I said, if you want, watch the video on changing the battery. I'll leave the link in the description. But I'll tell you, other than that, I mean, I've never had anybody really come up to me and not say, wow, that's a pretty bike. That's a pretty color, I mean, I just love it. It's the Wicked Red Deluxe paint scheme. So I'm going to post a picture also of when I actually bought her at the dealer, and, in front of the Harley sign holding the sold sign. And then I'll also put a picture after that of basically what she looks like now, but I don't think the lighting in this house is horrible, even with the ring lights, and I got some extra lights, but I don't think you're going to be able to see it. But I have the sissy bar and the detachable luggage rack, and usually most of the times when I'm taking the pictures and stuff or the videos, I have my backpack on the back too, so that kind of hides that. So let's just get into some of the mods that I did real quick, because I don't want to make this video long and boring. First modification I did was I took off the sewing machine muffler and I put on a Firebrand loose cannon muffler, which I checked videos out. I absolutely love the sound of this muffler. And it has removable baffles, but to me it's loud and proud enough. I'm not going to take those out. Another issue that I had that I didn't like was the stock mirrors. The only thing that I could see was my shoulders. And because the way these are set up, they don't go all the ways through, so you can't reverse them and then put them in upside down. So I had to go to Home Depot and buy the right proper thread and length bolts to put in there and cover up the holes. So I went to Walmart's and I ended up getting these red and black mirrors. They were like under $25. And then I also bought the set of the handlebar mounts for them, and these are like in millimeters. So I ordered the 10 millimeter because that's the first actual piece that comes out the bottom of the stem of the mirror. But for some reason they sent me the 8 millimeter, but the mirrors did come with the adapter to go from 10 millimeter to 8 millimeters. So I says, well, good enough. I threw them all together, and now I was really awesomely surprised and happy that the color red and black almost matches identical to Ruby. So that was like a plus, and I love the mirrors down under the handlebars. I could see a lot better, and they're just awesome. So that was another mod I did. And then of course I ended up getting from Harley, I ended up buying the detachable mounts for the luggage rack. And then I ended up buying, and it was a 2-piece set from Amazon. I bought the detachable luggage rack and sissy bar, padded sissy bar. Now if you bought that from Harley, they would have been 2 separate purchases. I think those were like under $150 for the whole set. So I got that, I put that on, and that became a godsend. Plus she already came with the 2-up seat and pegs, so it's a little bit more support and security for people when they also want to ride. And then of course I went out, and being all blacked out and everything, well, I wanted a little chrome in there. So I got this Willie G from Harley Davidson air cleaner trim. And then of course after I got that, I had to end up getting the Willie G foot peg cover, foot brake cover, and the shifter peg cover. And then Willie G, as far as I know, didn't make the foot pegs, so I ended up getting them from their craters from Amazon, and they're a copycat of Willie G. And then I ended up putting the Willie G from Harley also at front axle nut covers on. And then I added on these universal saddlebags from again from Amazon, and those are perfect because I'll fit basically any bike, and I use them a lot. But a lot of times if I'm just gonna go with a coffee or something to hang out with the guys or go to work, I end up needing to take that bag with me, so it's easier to throw on the backpack with some bungee cords on the sissy bar rather than take everything in and out of the bags and all that. So I mean, but I would just totally recommend this Street 500 or the 750 to anybody. The dealer told me that the 500 supposedly only has 6 horsepower less than the 750. So I kind of wanted the 750, but I'm glad that, like I'm looking at it as fate. He couldn't find 750s. He couldn't find, and it took him a while to finally find this. I think it was in New York, actually. And when he said he got that, he told me the color. I went to Harley.com. I looked for that year. I saw the color, and I'm like, oh yeah, because usually most of these Street 500s and 750s, the majority that I've seen are either the denim black or the vivid black. So when I saw the red and it kind of pops and all that, I'm like, oh, I gotta have that. And when I went up to the dealer, I didn't even take it for a test ride. They brought it out, I sat on it. It's got the forward mid controls. They're not totally mid and they're not totally forward, so they're in a good position. I'm 6 feet, exactly 6 feet tall, and weigh like 155, 154. And I tell you, I mean, my knees are up, but I'm not uncomfortable. It's got a really relaxed riding stance and everything. And I mean, you know, it's dangerous having her in the house, because that first year I had her in the house is when I did all these other modifications, because I keep looking at it like, I think I could do this, think I could do that. So I'm going to try not to do that, because like I said, I ended up putting down the 5,500, and they financed me 3,400, which I didn't want to loan at all, because this was in 2020 when we're in the midst of COVID, and we were out of work because I'm a school bus driver. So school was doing a remote learning, and then it was on and off, on and off. So I didn't want any big major loan. You know, otherwise I probably would have got a 1,200, but I would have had to pay probably like a $6,000 loan. So I was able to pay off the $3,400 loan. I think it was a 80 month or something like that, but I ended up paying it off in 5 months. So she's mine, free and clear, and I will never trade her in or get her. I mean, if something major happens, I'll have to fix it, or if it's something I can't, well, then that might be an option at that point. But I mean, I would like to try to find like an old 1,200 or 883, and maybe put on some nice front, you know, long forks, a nice like 4 or 5 foot tall sissy bar, and kind of, you know, I'm more the old school stripped down style like that, opposed to a bagger. I don't have nothing against baggers, but I mean, that's just, you know, my personal preference. So Ruby, you know, kind of comes to that. Throwing the bags on kind of changes that, but those are necessity when you know, going places and you need to get stuff. All right, people, I hope, you know, you're thinking about maybe, you know, getting one yourself, or maybe like somebody else that you know might want to. There's a lot of used ones out there, and a lot of them don't have that many miles, because a lot of people buy them. They probably even learn on the 500s through the Harley program, and they say, well, I learned on it, I want to buy it. But then they turn around and decide no, or maybe from peer pressure, no, you need something big or whatever, and they trade it in. So it's not hard to go out there and find 5 or 6, you know, 6-year-old 500 or 750 with less than like 3,000 miles on it. So thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, hit the ding-a-ling bell, and I just totally, absolutely love this bike. I'd recommend it to anybody. I mean, there's no and ifs or buts. It keeps up with everybody. She looks good. She sounds good. Why would you not want to buy something that's going to save you gas, save you insurance? And you go to some like, you know, bike week or a meet, and you look down the row and you see like 5,000 baggers. And then all of a sudden you come up and it's like, oh, wow, what's this? That's kind of different. So, you know, why not? Why not stand out and be different? All right, people, be safe, be happy, be healthy. Peace out, people.